I'm Edward St. Pé. Welcome to Nightique. We'd like to welcome Representative Cecil Brown, and thank you for being with us again.
Thank you.
Sir, well, let's talk about what's to come in November. You're running for Public Service Commissioner, right?
That's right, Central District Public Service Commissioner.
As a Democrat? As
a Democrat. There are 3 commissioners, Northern, Central, Southern, and the Central District Commissioner is not running for re-election, so I am running for that position, and I'm now the Democratic nominee.
Okay, now tell us about your political background. I know you worked with Governor Mabus.
I did. For 4 years I was the head of the Department of Finance Administration for 3 years, and then I was Governor Mabus' Chief of Staff for the last year, and then for the last 16 years I've been a member of the legislature, House of Representatives, representing parts of Hinds County, parts of the city of Jackson.
All right, the Public Service Commissioner. Explain, what is the Public Service Commissioner? What does he do?
Well, the Public Service Commission now, as I said, is 3 commissioners, made up of 3 commissioners, and they basically regulate utilities that are held for the public service. That's why it's called the Public Service Commission. So, for example, Entergy or some of the water systems and some of the gas companies are regulated by the Public Service Commission. Regulated means that if you're going to raise your prices in your regulated utility, you have to go through the Public Service Commission. They have to approve it. If you want to expand your service area or offer a new service, you have to go to the Public Service Commission and get that approved. If you want to build a new plant that you're going to build back to the customers, you have to go to the Public Service Commission. So it affects really everybody in the state of Mississippi, everybody that, we all use utilities, of course. So everybody in the state of Mississippi is affected one way or another by the Public Service Commission.
You know, I've often thought about that, the fact that the utility companies are basically monopolies.
That is correct.
And so that you can't seek another service at a lower price. You have to go with that provider.
That's generally right. And in some states now they've deregulated utilities to some extent.
What does that mean?
What that means is open competition, so that within limits within that, every state regulates its own utilities within that state. There is not federal regulation for the most part. There are some federal rules, but for the most part it's a state-regulated industry. The rules are set by each state separately. If a state wants to say, we're just going to open it up and let companies come in, anybody can compete, you can buy electricity anywhere you want to, they can do that. And some states have tried that on a limited basis with mixed success. In some cases it's worked okay. In other cases prices have been volatile, companies have gone out of business because they couldn't compete, and investors have lost money. The Public Service Commission in Mississippi is supposed to protect the consumers, the people who are called the ratepayers, the people that buy utilities. The utilities themselves have a bank of lawyers and accountants and engineers to protect them, and they have a monopoly status. But somebody's got to stand in the stead of the ratepayers, the people who are consumers, and that's what the Public Service Commission does in Mississippi.
So give us an example of where the Public Service Commissioner would step in and have something to say based on the actions of a utility company.
Well, the biggest example right now is the Kemper Power Plant over in Kemper County. It's a plant that is owned by Mississippi Power Company, which is a subsidiary of the Southern Company. It was supposed to cost $2 billion to build, and it's now, the price tag now is in excess of $6 billion. And the Southern Company, through its subsidiary Mississippi Power Company, is coming to the Public Service Commission wanting to raise rates to pay for a substantial part of that overrun. So that's an issue that is before the Public Service Commission right now, that's going to play out over the next few years as to who's going to pay for that cost overrun of about $4 billion.
So what are the options there?
Well, the options are, right now, recently the Public Service Commission gave Mississippi Power Company an emergency rate increase of 18%. It looks like Mississippi Power Company is going to ask for an additional 22%, which would bring the total rate increase to 40% for the ratepayers in order to pay for this plant over there, or a portion of this plant over there. And personally, I'm against that. I mean, I think that Mississippi Power Company in building that plant made substantial mistakes in the design of the plant and in the construction of the plant, which has resulted in a cost overrun of about $4 billion. The people who are buying power from them should not pay for that mistake. So I am against that. It's kind of up in the air as what this current Public Service Commission is going to do. Mississippi Power Company has asked for the current commission, whose terms will expire in December, to have a hearing on that, or some portion of that, before the end of the year. So we'll see what they do.
Okay, that's a coal-fired plant.
It is what's called this gets very complicated. It uses something called lignite coal, which as I understand it's a soft coal that has a high moisture content. They're trying to take that lignite coal and convert it into a gas that will operate the plant. It's never been done on this scale anywhere in the world. This is an experimental plant, and they want the customers to pay for it. And Mississippi Power Company says their experiment's going to work. And it's called a clean coal plant because it's supposed to meet all the EPA regulations, the new regulations in terms of clean air discharge. Again, that's up in the air as to whether or not that's going to happen. Nobody knows till they turn the switch on the plant and make it run. Right now, the power producing part of the plant, the one that runs the turbines that generates electricity, is running on natural gas, but they have not turned on the part of the plant that's supposed to convert this coal into natural gas. So we'll see what happens when they do that, and that should be sometime in 2016.
So what they're seeking right now would amount to a 40% increase in power bills?
They have not asked for that. They've asked for 18%, but they have said in their filings with the Public Service Commission they believe they'll ask for as much as an additional 22%. So that 18% they're getting today plus the 22% would be a 40% rate increase that they're asking for.
So that has a direct impact on the consumer. For example, old folks and poor folks who, when they get the bill, a 40% increase, what happens if a person can't pay their bill and it's freezing outside? And I mean, to me, that's a dilemma. I mean, do the power companies turn their electricity off and they freeze, or what happens?
There are some rules under the Mississippi Public Service Commission has adopted in terms of the ability of a power company to turn off the electricity. There are some protections for the ratepayers, but the short answer is over the long term, they're going to lose their power. They're going to lose their electricity if they can't pay.
So does the Public Service Commission has something to say about that, I guess, as far as how that happens, right?
That is correct. And the Public Service Commission actually has a staff of people. Each commissioner, Northern, Central, Southern, has a staff of people who deal with the public to try to resolve those kinds of issues. So if someone is having a problem paying their bill or somebody's having a problem with their service, they're able to call the Public Service Commission, get a live person on the phone who's supposed to intercede and try to work out some arrangement to help them.
So it's sort of like a consumer watchdog agency in a way, I guess.
It is. It's a watchdog, but it's also not just watching. They have a staff of people who are able to help consumers.
That's great. You know, it's great to have a better understanding of really what the Public Service Commission does.
Well, it is, and in particular this time when we're talking about a $6 billion plant, this plant is indirectly owned by the Southern Company, which is a public company, one of the biggest companies in the world, and they want the ratepayers in the state of Mississippi to pay some portion of a $4 billion overrun on a project that they built. Now, just yesterday, they agreed to buy another company for $8 billion, and instead of paying $8 billion on that company they agreed to buy, they could have put some more money into this project and not asked so much for the ratepayers. We'll just have to work that out. We'll have to see what happens over the next few months.
You know, I know this is probably a little bit controversial, nuclear energy. At this point, there's a lot of folks for it and against it, I guess, because of what's happened in recent years. But I would think that, would that have been another option to put in a nuclear plant? It
might have been an option. There is a hold on building new nuclear facilities. However, Southern Company now is building a new nuclear facility in Georgia, and they've got a $1 billion overrun on that plant also. So they're building the power plant. They got a $1 billion overrun on that plant. They got a $4 billion overrun on this plant down here. So they've got some substantial problems. Now, to put it in perspective, Southern Company is huge. A $5 billion overrun to Southern Company is still a lot of money, but it's not going to put them under. It's not even close. Mississippi Power Company, which is a subsidiary in Mississippi that built this plant here, it's owned by the Southern Company, but it's the smallest subsidiary they have. So it's not going to bankrupt Southern Company, but it's going to have a substantial impact on ratepayers, consumers in the state of Mississippi, and the employees of Mississippi Power Company.
What is the general consensus about nuclear power plants going forward? I mean, is this something we're going to see more of or less of, you think?
There is no consensus. You're going to see there are companies out there that are planning to build nuclear facilities, but as long as natural gas is where it is today, at low prices today, it is more than competitive with nuclear power. So part of the problem is you've got a lot of options out there. You've got solar, you've got wind, you've got hydroelectric power plants, you've got coal-fired plants, you've got natural gas powered plants, and you've got nuclear-powered plants. In order to figure out what's the best thing to do today, you've got to look way down the road, because building a nuclear plant is going to take 10 years. It'll take 10 years to build a plant. So you've got to figure out 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, is it better to own a nuclear-powered plant with those associated risks, or is it better to own a coal-fired plant, and what's going to happen to the cost of coal, or the natural gas-powered plant, and what's going to happen to the cost of natural gas? So it's sort of a moving target, and that's why all these utility companies have all these experts out there to try to project what's going to happen down the road.
I guess the risks involved with plants are higher when you look at nuclear, right?
There's an argument about that. I mean, we have not had a nuclear incident, I guess, in the United States since 3 Mile Island, and people argued that nuclear plants today are substantially safer than they were at that point in time. Of course, they had the big problem over in Japan, what, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was. They had a substantial problem over there. That scares folks.
Yeah.
So people are afraid of nuclear power. There's a movement among some people to talk about smaller nuclear plants and more of them, so you don't have these gigantic plants. We still haven't decided what we're going to do with nuclear waste, and that's another issue that's got to be dealt with in this country. So there are a lot of issues around nuclear.
Right. The waste material that comes from the plant, it's got a 1,000-year half-life or whatever
Right.
it is. I mean, what do you do with it?
Well, it's got to be stored somewhere, and there have been plans to dig out a cave in a mountain out west and bury it there, and the people in that state didn't want to do that. There's former Governor Barber and some other people have talked about burying it down in the salt domes in Mississippi, and of course that's not been very popular here. So I don't know. Nobody wants it. It's the old "not in my backyard" kind of thing. Nobody
Right.
wants to waste material in their area.
You know, it's like the oil refineries that are along the river in Louisiana. A lot of those refineries are in poor neighborhoods, you know, in those poor rural
Yeah.
neighborhoods, and it's you know, the poor folks end up breathing the fumes and get the diseases that are associated with breathing, you know, the contamination through the years. It usually gets shuffled off to those with least voice.
These big plants, whether they're power plants or any other kind of plants, are going to produce enormous amounts of waste. And there's always a substantial question about what do you do about the waste. People like to complain about the federal government, complain about the Department of Environmental Quality, the Environmental Protection Agency, but nobody wants that stuff dumped in their yard.
Right.
Nobody wants chicken remains dumped in their yard. Nobody wants all this stuff dumped in their yard, and those are the people that enforce the rules that try to keep us safe from all that waste out there.
Right. Okay, we're talking to Representative Cecil Brown, and we're going to take a break. We'll be right back,
Good.
okay?
Thank
Stay tuned.
When you are looking to further your education, there's only one university that towers above the rest, Jackson State University. Jackson State University is one of the leading universities in research, technology, and innovation, graduating more than 1,300 students annually and a consistent growth in revenue. Jackson State University is ranked #1 amongst the HBCUs in research and development. Make the right choice, the one choice, one Jackson State University, changing lives one student at a time.
Bengal presents From One Legend to Another.
Good day. I must say I've deduced that Bengal roach spray is a superior product. It's kept all traces of those vile creatures from my home. Which lets me focus on more meaningful pursuits.
People trust Bengal Roach Spray's legendary performance. No odor, no mess, no roaches. Bengal Roach Spray really works.
With Bengal, I love having a little more me time.
Ingalls Shipbuilding is hiring electricians, structural welders, machinists, ship fitters, pipe fitters, and pipe welders in our Pascagoula, Mississippi site. Signing bonuses available for pipe welders only. Positions are union represented. Come build your career with Ingalls Shipbuilding. Go to www.huntingtoningalls.com/careers or call 888-935-1507. We're talking to Representative Cecil Brown, who is a candidate for Public Service Commissioner in the Central District.
Central District, 22 counties, about 1 million people.
So we were talking about some of the different types of energy that the plants use to manufacture power. Okay, so we were talking about nuclear. Going forward through the years, you think that we'll see more of nuclear?
I personally think 100 years from now we're going to see more nuclear. Whether we see it in my lifetime, your lifetime, the next 50 years, I don't know. There are an awful lot of people who don't want nuclear, and as I said earlier, depending on the cost of natural gas and other sources of power, nuclear may or may not be competitive because it costs a lot to build a nuclear plant, and the cost of that plant is going to be charged out to the ratepayers. So as long as natural gas prices are where they are today, or around where they are today, and as long as there are other sources such as coal or whatever it may be that we're going to allow to be used for fuel, you're not going to see a lot of nuclear. When it becomes too expensive or the other resources go away, then you may see more nuclear. Now, we're going to see more solar, we're going to see more wind power, we're going to see more hydropower. Those things are going to happen, but the cost of those in many instances is still above where the cost of using natural gas is today. So as long as natural gas is so cheap, that's going to be the primary source.
It seems like it would be hard to manufacture energy via solar on a large scale, you would think.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now we've got companies in Mississippi, well, out in California and other parts of the United States, they are using a lot of solar, and in Europe they're using a lot of solar, much higher percentage than we use in Mississippi. And now most of our power companies in Mississippi, whether it's Entergy or Mississippi Power Company or the electric co-ops, are beginning to do the test use of solar power. So they're building solar-powered facilities around the state of Mississippi to see how feasible it is and how much it will cost to do it here. Cost of solar panels has come down dramatically. So the cost of producing solar power has come down dramatically. When that line crosses and it's cheaper to use solar than it is to use some of these other sources, you'll see a lot more solar.
And some people are getting off the grid, so to speak, and they're putting solar in their homes, right?
Oh, I've got a friend who's totally off the grid. His home is 100% solar powered. He drives electric powered cars. He's not connected to the grid and buys no gasoline at all. He's just 100% solar. Now he's in the solar business, and I've never asked him what it costs to do that, but it's 100% solar. He's just free from all this other stuff.
It's a good idea to at least have an understanding of that, and at least maybe get off the grid partially, you know, and have some independence from the power companies.
I think energy today and research in energy is probably about where research into computers and those kinds of things and telecommunications was 20 years ago. I mean, we're on the cusp of dramatic changes in the way energy is produced in this country and the way energy is consumed in this country. In fact, the actual use of energy has come down as machines become more efficient, and we're using less energy. As automobiles have become more efficient, we're using less energy per capita or per user today than we were 20 years ago. So you're going to continue to see some of that too.
You know, Elon Musk is the guy that is involved with, I think, SpaceX, and also he's working on batteries. Have you heard much about that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's another big issue. Once battery storage gets to some point, whatever that point is, becomes more affordable, more efficient, you're going to see a lot more solar. One of the problems with solar now is storing solar when you've got excess solar power, being able to store that and use it when you don't have enough. Same thing with wind power. You're going to see those kinds of things happening.
Yeah, that's the key, being able to store the energy to use it later.
Right, that's right. And I don't understand all that. You know, I've tried to understand the electrons and all that. I can't figure all that out. But I know enough to read and understand and talk to people who do understand it. And in talking to them, they get very excited about it. And these are not dumb people. These are very smart people who do understand it, and they all believe we're moving toward a different world in the world of energy.
Yeah, you know, and so with Elon Musk concentrating on battery development, that's a good thing, because there should be a breakthrough coming at some point, because he's a fairly competent guy. You know?
Yeah, and who knows when that's going to happen. I mean, it may happen tomorrow. It may not happen for 50 years. We don't know. I remember 30 years ago, they had something called cold fusion. You may or may not remember that, but there was this announcement that these scientists had come up with a way to produce fusion that was cool. You could do it outside of a high heat situation. Well, it turned out to be wrong. They couldn't do it, but everybody's always excited about that. So we may see some step backs like that along the way. But I think just looking at what's happened, for example, as I mentioned with solar panels, the cost of solar panels and the efficiency of solar panels over the last 10 years or so, we're going to see some big changes.
We were talking about Elon Musk, and he's got the car company Tesla, which is battery operated luxury cars, which they're selling now. And of course the name Tesla, he takes it from the man Tesla, Tesla, who was sort of a forerunner in the development of energy, right?
Right.
Back at the time of Edison.
Right.
Now you see, there's an example of unknown developments which are not necessarily parallel to what we know today, that we don't know what would have developed if Tesla would have kept going, because he had innovative ideas, you know, I mean, out of the box ideas.
Yeah,
in development of
that's
energy.
a great example. I don't remember the time period of that, when exactly that was, but if you just think back, that's probably close to, what, 90 years ago or something like that.
Well, he was a contemporary of Edison.
Yeah,
So.
so you can figure how long that was. It might take another 90 years to get this additional progress. But based on the progress we've seen in a lot of other technological areas, I don't think it's going to take that long. We're going to see stuff moving pretty fast.
Okay, one more break and we're going to be back.
Sure.
We're with Representative Cecil Brown. We're talking about the Public Service Commission election, which is in November. And we're talking about that, and he's running for Public Service Commissioner in the Central District. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
When you are looking to further your education, there's only one university that towers above the rest, Jackson State University. Jackson State University is one of the leading universities in research, technology, and innovation, graduating more than 1,300 students annually and a consistent growth in revenue. Jackson State University is ranked #1 amongst the HBCUs in research and development.
Yeah, I'm a roach whisperer. I've just always had a way with them. Now, roaches are stubborn, nasty insects, and sometimes you just gotta be forceful with them. Hi, roach, be gone. You're not welcome here, roach.
There is a better way. Bengal Roach Spray. No odor, no mess, no roaches. Bengal Roach Spray really works.
And if whispering don't work, I always got my backup plan.
Ingalls Shipbuilding is hiring electricians, structural welders, machinists, ship fitters, pipe fitters, and pipe welders in our Pascagoula, Mississippi site. Signing bonuses available for pipe welders only. Positions are union represented. Come build your career with Ingalls Shipbuilding. Go to www.huntingtoningalls.com/careers or call 888-935-1507. Well, Cecil Brown, why are you driven to enter the public life as a public service commissioner? You've been a representative, you've been serving in the legislature for many years, and you worked with Governor Mavis years before that. You're not making any money. I understand that the money that you earn as a representative, you donate, which goes into a scholarship fund for teachers at Ole Miss. So you're not taking any money out of it.
I did that for 12 years, yeah.
So that's a pretty neat thing to do. Well, I think. I mean, I've never known anybody in the legislature to do that. I'm sure there might be some other folks, but I think it's a neat thing to do.
Well, we've been very fortunate. My wife's a teacher, and we've been very lucky. We're not wealthy people, but giving back is part of what we believe in. I believe in public service. I think you've got to have, you can't just sit around and complain about what's going on without contributing to try to make it better. That's the way I look at it. That's the way she looks at it. So when she teaches, the way I look at it, she's doing exactly what I do. We're trying to make things better, not just for ourselves, but for other people. And that sounds self-serving, but that's why we do it. I think Public Service Commission, particularly with this Kemper thing, is going to be have a major impact on the state of Mississippi. If we allow the Southern Company to let the ratepayer, if we were, for example, to allow Southern Company to have the ratepayers pay for $6 billion worth of this plant, all that money would go out of the state of Mississippi. So that's $6 billion hole in the economy of the state of Mississippi. That's bad for the people of the state of Mississippi. That's not going to happen. They've not even asked for the whole $6 billion, but they're going to ask for some part of that. And you've got to have people in that job, the Public Service Commission job, who understand the numbers, who understand the background, who are able to resolve the problems and make some rational decision about how much should they be able to charge and what portion of it should be paid for by the stockholders of Southern Company. And I want to be one of those people. That's what I've done for 40 years. I'm a CPA. I was an investment advisor for 20 years. I've been involved in making financial decisions for 47 years. So I think I've got the background, the expertise to do this job, and it's something that really interests me.
Well, I'd like to wish you good luck
Thank you.
in the election in November.
Thank
And
you.
you're traveling around the Central District, I guess.
We have
right
been
now.
on the road. Been on the road.
What is your website?
My website is Cecil Brown. Well, www.electcecilbrown.com.
electcecilbrown.com.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, it's been fun. The people. One of the things about campaigning, it's tiring, but it's really great. People in Mississippi are so great. When you get out there, all over the state of Mississippi, and particularly in the Central District, I've been to 22 counties multiple times, and I have yet to meet anybody who was not nice. I don't mean just cordial. I mean really nice. People are welcoming. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know a little bit about you. They want to sit down and talk, and that's kind of refreshing. You know, it renews your faith in humanity to do that.
Yeah, it must be fun to be traveling around and meeting the people, as it were. Right?
Well, I've been to towns I've never been to before, and that's been fun. I've met a lot of elected officials. I've met a lot of just citizens, people, business folks and working folks, and just, you know, people in those communities. To go to little restaurants in these little towns and sit down with folks from every walk of life down there and chat with them. It's fun.
Well, once again, good luck, and thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
And we'll
Appreciate
see
you having me back.
soon. We want you to come back, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, folks, for being with us. This is Nightique. See you next time.
Great.